Hi, my name is Julie Guy, and today we're kind of introducing ourselves, learning about fable tales, which when you grew up, we all grew up on them, especially us girls, where we all loved the happily ever after, the prince saving the princess, everything to go with that. But the thing about fairy tales is the originals were pretty much overlooked. People only wanted to see what they wanted to see in people, kind of like how I grew up. I did not grow up with money, and people saw me for what they saw. But now, as an adult, I'm the fairy tale. I'm put together, I have a good job, a good family, and everything is set. So it kind of seems like a lot of fairy tales that were gruesome and started out wrong turned out great because they were being retold. The fairy tale I'm working on is The Princess and the Pea. And it's kind of a funny story because it's how do I relate to that? Because she is a princess after all. So the original ones were by Hans Christian. And if they were more readily available, I think more people would take an interest in them, such sort as The Princess and the Pea, which growing up was a favorite of mine because who doesn't like sleeping? So The True Princess and the Pea actually started out on May 18th, 1835. And it's kind of like the original, the retold story, where the princess shows up. She's got to prove to herself, to the prince, that she's worthy of him by sleeping on a 20-some mattresses. But in the original story, that she showed up looking poor, disgruntled. The prince was like, I don't think so. And so he said, okay, well, let's put this pea under 20 mattresses. So, of course, the test goes on where that's exactly what happens. She lays on the mattresses. She can feel it. She's uncomfortable. Bam, she's a princess. Everybody just believes her. So, once again, kind of how I grew up. I showed up, I did not look good, but I was never given a test. Nobody ever tested me, I just had to kind of prove my worthiness. Now you're probably wondering about the whole original story versus the first one. See, kind of how I flipped the script there, was that they're actually the same. The story from before and the story now are the exact same story, except for you were kind of led on to believe that one was more gruesome than the other, like most fairy tales, kind of like me. I'm still the same person I was back then. Nothing has changed. I may look different. I may have a better cover. But unlike the Princess and the Pea story, the original, and the one told now, were the exact same. Nothing has really changed. But you did believe at first that something would change because that's how it works in fairy tales. But growing up poor and changing your lifestyle doesn't change who you are. Just like the princess in the story. Nothing had changed there. She was the exact same person that showed up on that doorstep. Ragged, dirty, having to prove herself, just like anybody who's ever grown up poor. I've had to prove themselves. So I guess my theory in all this is, why should we judge people? Why should anybody have to be judged or put through a test? If anybody had seen the princess at the beginning, they would know that she was exactly that, just a beautiful princess. And so at the end of this speech, I hope you take away with that. Don't judge, love, and remember, not all fairy tales are real. Thank you for the speech.